5 weeks, they're playing in prime time. It'd be nice to see them play on the road at 1 o'clock once in a while. Enjoy the game. We'll be all about it tomorrow. And thank you so much for watching the Craig Carton Show. Appreciate you being with us.
Oh, the best part about it is that they're just going about handling their business. I was listening to Arvell Reese and his literally like 5-word sentences about himself and some of the things that Caleb has been talking about. The dudes are just so locked in here about just doing their job and not worrying about all the other things and awards. They know all those happen when you go win and you win decisively.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to have bet tracking for the first time. If you have a FanDuel account, you'll be able to track your bet on the Prime Video games. And tonight, if you are part of the ESPN Mega Content Service, we understand from an organization called Antenna that 2 million people at least have the ESPN Mega Content or Unlimited service. You will be able to track your bets also on tonight's NBA coverage. So this is the beginning of a major new era for basketball on television.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Like Marchand said, they're all a bunch of dirtballs, so I fit in with them. You know what I mean? Remember, like, the Phillies baseball team, like, with Kroc and Dykstra and all those guys? Like, yeah, they're just a bunch of dirtballs, right? And that's what the Panthers are. They're all the same. Like, they're all like to drink. They're all tough. They're all dirty in the corner. You know what I mean? They'll all do whatever it takes to win, but that's why they've won 2 cups in a row.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
For him and Cignetti are the most Spurrier-like personalities, Spurrier-like head coaches, and Cignetti's locked up. And you know what? And Ole Miss could very well lock Lane Kiffin up, but he will always be a fighting under. At Ole Miss, you will always be a little bit of an underdog because of who you're playing. At Florida, you don't ever have to be an underdog because of their resources.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Kelly out at LSU, and the sports equinox is here. Front Office Sports Today starts now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today, your look inside the stories that are shaping the business and culture of sports. I'm Baker Machado here at FOS Studios in New York City. And coming up on today's show, Adam Silver has been summoned by Congress, all on the NBA's gambling investigation. Plus, the World Series is heading back to Los Angeles. But let's start with news on another big college coach buyout in today's main event. Well, after their blowout loss over the weekend to number 3 Texas A&M, LSU fired head coach Brian Kelly after 3.5 seasons in Baton Rouge, paying roughly $53 million to buy the coach out. That, by the way, the second most expensive buyout in college football history. So let's bring in college sports reporter Amanda Kristovich. So, Amanda, why did LSU decide to part ways with Brian Kelly now?
I think it's just a question of emotion at this point, which is the situation at a lot of schools where these coaches, Brian Kelly was hired at one of the, at the time, it was the biggest contracts in college football during the last coaching carousel. And they had high expectations for him. And at this point, think back to last week when LSU lost to Vanderbilt. If you asked Vanderbilt, they expected to win that game, but LSU certainly expected to win as well. And even though Vanderbilt was a formidable opponent, they didn't really necessarily, I think a lot of their fans see it that way, right? Because they're sort of a newcomer. So between that and Texas A&M and then dropping out of the rankings, I think it just became very clear in Baton Rouge that the Brian Kelly experiment, as they like to call it, just wasn't working.
LSU Athletic Director Scott Woodward now behind the top 2 biggest buyouts in college football history. The first, of course, being Jimbo Fisher over at Texas A&M. So what do we know about Brian Kelly's buyout? Like, how will this work? And is there a chance it might be similar to what we see with James Franklin, where maybe he doesn't get all of that $53 million here?
Yes, it is 100% similar to the situation with James Franklin, where there is a duty to mitigate an offset clause. So basically what that means is that whatever, Brian Kelly is contractually obligated to now look for another job. And it's not going to be flipping burgers. He's supposed to look for another job as, a big time college football coach or maybe a media personality, right? Something that's going to pay him multiple millions of dollars. And whatever his new job salary is, LSU would only have to pay the difference between what that salary is and the buyout, right? So if Brian Kelly lands another job this offseason that pays, $8 or $9 million a year, let's say, the Tigers really would be like mostly off the hook. And it's also important to note that they're paying this buyout in monthly installments. So that's less than $800,000 a month, right? So even if it takes like 6 months for Brian Kelly to find a new job, or 8 months, or even a year, they're not paying anywhere near that full $53 million amount.
I want to talk about the governor, Jeff Landry of Louisiana, here for a second, because he had this tweet that kind of went viral over the weekend. After the LSU loss, he was complaining about how the Board of Supervisors was going to raise ticket prices. Didn't think it was worth it after this performance, but now we're hearing maybe the governor might have been involved with Kelly's firing. Is that true?
Yes. So I have reached out to the governor's office for comment, and I haven't heard back yet. But what we do know about that situation is that LSU does not have a permanent university president. They have an interim president right now. And not only does the governor control several of those board of governor, those board seats that the university system, those people are the ones who make the decisions about everything in the university, right? Not only does he control and appoint those folks, but since there's no full-time university president, or there is, but he's sort of like almost a figurehead, right? Mm-hmm. It's like an interim position. The governor is really tasked with overseeing a lot more aspects of the university than he would normally be. I would also add that LSU football is very intertwined in Louisiana politics. So it wouldn't surprise me if Governor Landry was part of this regardless of the university president situation. But we'll have to see if his office gets back to me and confirms some of those details about hosting a meeting with donors and university officials at the governor's mansion and really sort of getting more involved than the average politician might be.
Good point. Front Office Sports College sports reporter Amanda Kristovich, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, with Brian Kelly's buyout, we've seen schools pay out a record $169 million just to fire their coaches, and it's only October. So who might be one of the big names for the LSU job? Well, let's bring in FOS reporter David Rumsey. So David, $169 million in buyouts. Will that number increase here?
Absolutely it will, Baker. Like you said, we're just in October. So as we get into November and we get closer to the end of college football's regular season, all of these teams that maybe didn't make a bowl game or are not where their records want to be, we're going to see a few more firings. And some coaches, like Mike Norvell down at Florida State, also have $50 million plus buyouts. So I think that total, that 169, is easily going to start pushing towards $200 million. And depending on which dominoes fall, could go far surpass $200 million.
Which is just crazy to think about it. I guess, does it make economic sense for these schools to be firing these coaches midway through the season? Why do that now? Is the point just to sort of save whatever you have for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think it does make sense. I mean, I guess you could argue from a competitive standpoint whether you get an edge from an interim coach or if it's more disruption, but a lot of these teams that are firing their coaches now are already not where they want to be competitively on the field. So they're not really worried about that. They're thinking about 2026, next season and beyond, the rest of this decade, really. So I do think it is advantageous for them to get a leg up on the competition and get your search process started, whether you're forming a committee or getting together trustees or board of advisors or boosters, or maybe even hiring an outside search firm. Go ahead and get those ducks in a row. And then, as November comes and more firings happen and you try to start poaching a school coach from maybe a smaller school, you're ready to go when that time is there.
So the top candidate, it seems like, at all of these big jobs right now, mainly Florida and LSU, is Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin. 50 years old, still young, has shown how great he can be at a place like Ole Miss. Do you see him leaving Ole Miss for one of these two other big jobs out there?
It's so tough because I've started to think this season that he's truly, really happy at Ole Miss. And of course, Ole Miss does not maybe have all of the resources that the top 5 or 10 programs in the nation have. But like we've talked about on the show before, Baker, Lane Kiffin has been around the block. He's been to the NFL, he's been to Tennessee, he's been at USC, he's been to Florida Atlantic, and now he's finally just seems like he's loving coaching at Ole Miss, and he has a pretty good football team this year. We'll see what they do in the college football playoff. I personally think it really could come down to that. If they make a run or even were to win a national championship, of course he wouldn't leave. But if they get bounced in a blowout in the first round of the playoffs or even miss the playoff, yeah, I could see him saying, hey, maybe I do go take that LSU job, because a lot of people regard that as even better than Florida, one of the best jobs in the country. You have so much talent in Louisiana, and you don't even have any in-state competition like maybe Florida has from other in-state rivals.
One other story I want to get to is this report from Diana Rossini over the weekend in The Athletic that Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian might be interested in an NFL job if it became available. His agents were trying to tap down that really fast. Do you think Sark ends up leaving?
Yeah, I guess on one hand, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Is his name being discussed in NFL circles? Sure, he's a great coach. He was an offensive coordinator for the Falcons in the NFL back in like 2017, 2018. Didn't really have a memorable run there, but obviously had a lot of success at Alabama and now is having success at Texas. But personally, I could argue that being the head coach of the Texas Longhorns football team is a lot better job and probably a lot more lucrative than many NFL head coaching jobs. I mean, he's making $10 million plus season. He has signed a contract extension just earlier this year, all the way through 2031, I believe. So he has a lot of security there. He's really built the program back up. And I don't know, do you want to go become the head coach of the Titans? And we've seen the turnover that's happened there. Do you want to give up what you have in college when, if you're one of these top college coaches, you could probably have your name in the running for an NFL job every single year. So I don't see that happening, but you never know.
Very good point. David Rumsey, thank you so much. And next up, everyone, we have the latest on the NBA FBI gambling investigation. Don't go anywhere.
You just see Texas in any game, and again, Kentucky used to be able to put up points in the past. 43.5 is crazy because it just feels like Texas is going to come in, play really good defense, and try to squeeze this game out. It'll be interesting to see because nothing got ailed from that victory last week. Texas is back. I'm just being facetious at this point, but if we see one of those performances, 17-14 Texas
in the fourth quarter,
yeah, come on,
right? I mean, really? I mean, they got a gift last week.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it looks like the Bengals fantasy pieces are back. What did you make of that Joe Flacco performance on Thursday night? Turning back time.
Yeah, it was great for a guy like me with gray in the beard. I love seeing it. I love my representation. But at the end of the day, just from a wagering standpoint, if this continues, it'll give some consistency and it'll give some value back to those tools that you were mentioning on the Bengals.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Defense is above average this year, and I think big picture they're going to be probably the most consistent moving forward. The problem I have is this guy, Trevor Lawrence, big picture. You got to take the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly sometimes is real ugly. He is not comfortable in the pocket on a consistent basis, and that's a problem.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. Well, members of Congress have requested a briefing with NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. This is we're learning new names that allegedly attended some of those poker games in question. So let's bring in Ben Horney. He's the author of the Asset Class newsletter. So, Ben, what's the latest in this case and any notable updates so far here?
Yeah, so with something like this, we keep getting information. So as you noted, this bipartisan group of 6 members of Congress have asked Adam Silver to report to them about what's going on with the NBA and gambling issues by Halloween. So that's coming up soon. That's this Friday. Also, over the weekend, we learned, like you noted, the names of a few people who allegedly played at these games. They are not accused of crimes, but they're big names. The 2 that stand out, Tyronn Lue, head coach, and Kevin Garnett, obviously Hall of Famer, great player. So again, they're not accused of crimes, but they were apparently playing at these poker games.
Yeah, and Tyronn Lue specifically, I guess he wasn't at the same table as Chauncey Billups, but either way, the fact that his name is even involved in this in terms of being at the games is really interesting here, Ben. Are we getting any sort of insight into how prosecutors are going to assess this case?
So I think that, as we talked about last week, they've put out these indictments and now they are waiting to potentially get more information. As we said last week, Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, they were arrested and released. We found out late on Friday that Damon Jones, he's the other name, he has also been released. He's being represented by a public defender in Nevada, which is something interesting to look into because you're usually represented by a public defender because you can't afford your own attorney. So that's another interesting tidbit here. There were some other updates as well. I mean, Adam Silver was interviewed on the Amazon Prime broadcast, and he seemed a little bit shell-shocked having to discuss this. I mean, obviously, again, as we've gone over, these are the opening weeks of the season. There's a lot of great basketball going on. This is not what he wants to be talking about.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that with Colin Salau here in just a moment. So how do you sort of expect the case to sort of build here? Where do you sort of see the next shoe to drop here?
So I think it's going to be piece-by-piece reporting at this point. I mean, we're still trying to dig into it. There's avenues we're looking down. As far as when the next filing will be or the next announcement, it's really hard to tell. I mean, we did not know that this was going to happen. We had been following, the Terry Rozier issue and Malik Beasley, who, again, he also was not named in these indictments. And then all of a sudden, there was this press briefing announced. So as far as I can tell, that's the sort of way that we would hear from the feds again on it. We're not really going to know. But we at Front Office Sports and also elsewhere, everyone's going to be trying to find out as much as they can about all this.
Yeah, indeed. Ben Horney, thank you so much for the update. He's the author of the Asset Class newsletter, which you can sign up for at frontofficesports.com. Thanks, Ben. Well, as Ben just mentioned, the NBA FBI investigation is coming as the league is open to record ratings and some amazing performances from the likes of those like Victor Wembanyama. Let's bring in FOS reporter Colin Salau. So is this NBA FBI investigation overshadowing what's been a great week, Colin?
Yeah, I think it is. The news came out about the ratings for the NBA to start the season, and the opening night game, which featured a double overtime thriller between the Thunder and the Rockets, was the most watched opening night since LeBron moved to the Heat, which obviously had a lot of hype. There's a lot of Nielsen ratings right now and methodology changes that could have caused that, but it's still huge for it to be that high. And not only that, but we're seeing great games on national television every single night. And yet the conversation seems to be around these 2 gambling cases. Yesterday I had lunch with a couple of friends who don't follow the NBA, and one of them brought up the gambling issue.
Oh, no.
So, when casual fans are talking about that, that's really what's the story that's being told about the league right now. And it's tough because the season started off so hot.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about what's been going on the court right now. What has been sort of the biggest surprise in the few opening games that we've seen so far to you?
It's this, I don't know if you've heard of this 7-foot infinity guy who plays for the Spurs. I think it's weird because it's not completely a surprise, but I think it's in the way that Victor Wembanyama is dominating the league right now. It seems like he's arrived. It seems like it's year 3. I like to compare it to LeBron in year 3. When LeBron was in year 3, that was the year that the Cavs made the playoffs for the first time with LeBron. They won 50 games. They won a playoff series. They pushed the number 1 seed Detroit Pistons. It kind of feels like that's what's happening to Wemby right now, that this is the time that he shows that he is a real generational talent that's going to be potentially the face of the league, which is what the league has been looking for a really long time, which again is kind of odd considering all that's happening right now that they've answered that problem. But he has been, 33 points, 13 rebounds, 6 blocks per game, just an absolute force. And I'll put it this way. Jay Bilas said it on the broadcast. He said, it's like you're an 8-year-old playing against your dad in the backyard. That's what it feels like when you watch him, and he is a unicorn.
On top of that, also, the number 1 pick, Cooper Flagg, obviously didn't have the greatest of debuts, only scoring 10 points for the Mavericks. But what are your thoughts on the first couple games as he's starting to get his feet a little bit more wet here?
Yeah, I watched the next game he played against my Wizards, and he didn't look good at the start of the game, but you kind of saw him get confidence as the game went on, and he started to play a lot better towards the end. And last night he had a great game as well. I think his first 20-point game and their first win. I think that's, the growing pains of being the youngest player in the NBA. And at the same time, he's playing out of position to an extent, not playing point guard. So I think it's going to take a while for him to adjust, but he is definitely very talented, and he's clearly measured differently from every other rookie because of the expectations that are on him.
Colin, you mentioned the great ratings so far. How much do you think that has to do with people checking out Amazon and NBC, who are first-time platforms here?
I think the NBC side is definitely clear right now. We haven't really seen yet the ratings from an Amazon standpoint, but from the NBC side, one of the reasons why they chose NBC was free television. The NBC channel itself is a free broadcast channel. The distribution can be larger, and that showed in those opening night games. Obviously, the way that NBC celebrated the game has also been praised, but I think just the very mere fact that it was a double overtime game on a free television platform was a huge reason why, we saw these, boost in ratings. Amazon, I think it remains to be seen. I think streaming services, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But I think that NBC, at least for this first week, definitely showed that it's a positive for the league.
All right, Colin Salau, thank you so much. And coming up next, some of the headlines we're following, including Game 3 of the World Series heading back to the U.S. That's next.
You just see Texas in any game, and again, Kentucky used to be able to put up points in the past. 43.5 is crazy because it just feels like Texas is going to come in, play really good defense, and try to squeeze this game out. It'll be interesting to see because nothing got ailed from that victory last week. Texas is back. I'm just being facetious at this point, but if we see one of those performances, 17-14 Texas
in the fourth quarter,
yeah, come on,
right? I mean, really? I mean, they got a gift last week.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it looks like the Bengals fantasy pieces are back. What did you make of that Joe Flacco performance on Thursday night? Turning back time.
Yeah, it was great for a guy like me with gray in the beard. I love seeing it. I love my representation. But at the end of the day, just from a wagering standpoint, if this continues, it'll give some consistency and it'll give some value back to those tools that you were mentioning on the Bengals.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Defense is above average this year, and I think big picture they're going to be probably the most consistent moving forward. The problem I have is this guy, Trevor Lawrence, big picture. You got to take the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly sometimes is real ugly. He is not comfortable in the pocket on a consistent basis, and that's a problem.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today, and let's get you caught up on some of the other headlines and stories that we're following for you over at the FOS Water Cooler. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Front Office Sports today. And let's get you caught up on some of the other stories we're following for you over at the FOS Water Cooler. And let's bring in from our control room our senior producer, John Shames. He's going to join me. Hi,
Yes,
John.
sir. I'm happy to be here, Baker. Great to see you on a fine Monday, a very special Monday, which we will get to why shortly. But yeah, let's see what's bubbling, baby.
Yes, indeed. Okay, let's start with some big injuries over in the NFL, where Giant star rookie running back Cam Scatterbo, his season now officially over. This after he dislocated his ankle, and he was taken to the hospital for surgery in New York's loss to the Eagles on the weekend. Now, Scatterbo's right foot turned in the wrong direction. This after his cleat was caught in the grass. Scatterbo's teammate, rookie quarterback Jackson Dart, called that injury, quote, devastating. Elsewhere, the Bills are going to be without standout defensive tackle Ed Oliver indefinitely. That as he undergoes an MRI that on concerns he tore his bicep in his left arm, that during Buffalo's win over Carolina. So, Shames, who's the bigger loss here for their team?
Both devastating in their own ways. If Ed Oliver is out for the season, that is brutal for the Bills, who really seem poised. At least in the beginning, first few weeks of the season, they looked like the best team in the NFL. A couple losses later, now a bounce back against the lowly Saints. You don't really know what to make of them, but this is a tough one for them without Ed. Scatterbo, on the other hand, just devastating, man. The Giants had become such a fun team. We're in New York, a lot of those fans we work with, and they were all really excited. And it sucks, man, to see a great, promising young running back. It makes me think a lot of Breece Hall for the Jets when he tore his ACL back in the day. You hope Scatterbo can bounce back from this, and maybe hopefully Jackson Dart and some others on that Giants team can carry the good vibes this season.
Yeah, Scatterbo was such a great find for the Giants, drafting him later in the rounds, really becoming a star with Jackson Dart, and really the Giants sort of needed him and Jackson Dart for sort of that great push they've had the last couple of games. Let's talk about your Jets, Shames. What a weekend for quarterback Justin Fields after almost losing the starting job to Tyrod Taylor, which we should note Tyrod Taylor didn't play because of an injury, to then getting blamed by owner Woody Johnson for the Jets' winless start. Justin Fields over the weekend led the Jets to one of their biggest comeback wins in franchise history. He rallied down 15 to beat the Bengals 39-38 and gave the Jets their first win of the season. Now, Fields afterwards told reporters the emotional toll that the season has taken so far on him. Take a listen.
I found myself in my closet crying, on the ground, laying down, not because of the hardships, not because of the troubles. I felt like, I was built to handle that, and I was put in place to handle this situation. But yesterday, I was just praying over and over and over again, just one win, and But all that to say is that God is real, God is good.
All right, so what do we think about Justin Fields over this weekend?
Man, Justin is a great kid. Renee and I got the chance to meet him a couple of months ago at an event that we did, and we hung out with him for about an hour, and we talked about the upcoming season, and you could tell he was nervous but excited to be in this big New York market. It's great to see him smile, and it's great to see, he needed a win, both on the field and also metaphorically speaking after he got completely thrown under the bus by Woody Johnson, who was kind of sneaking up as maybe the worst owner in all of sports right now, Baker, I must say. But great game for Fields. I was watching the whole thing. The Bengals, it felt like they were kind of holding the Jets at arm's length, and then you blink in the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden it's a one-score game. They get that electric two-point conversion, and then the win. Great day in Jets land, and it couldn't have happened on a better day after the terrible news of Nick Mangold passing away earlier in the day. They needed a dub, and they got one. So shout out Justin.
And by the way, Aaron Glenn, the head coach, getting the game ball for the win, his very first as an NFL head coach as well.
Yeah, awesome stuff.
All right, finally, move over Blood Moon. We have another rare occurrence happening today. So what is it about this very special sports day?
It's the sports equinox, Baker. Yeah. 4 major American sports leagues, the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, and MLB are all going to be playing tonight. What are you going to be watching?
I mean, there's so many great games. Peacock's very first exclusive games that they've got tonight. One of them, the second one later tonight, is the Nuggets versus the Timberwolves. I'm going to be watching that. Plus Monday Night Football, Game 3 of the World Series. I mean, this is kind of amazing, isn't it?
Amazing, and I will unfortunately be locked in on the Boston Celtics. The 0-3 Celtics, my Celtics, trying to get their first dub of the season against the 0-2 Pelicans. I think it can happen. that on one screen on my multi-view, World Series on the other side. Maybe we'll check in on some football.
By the way, this is only the 32nd time this has ever happened, and it's mostly now because of how all these leagues have changed their schedules. Usually the World Series doesn't start this late. You usually also don't have overlap with the NFL, so this is amazing. So how it's all sort of aligned so perfectly together.
It's awesome. One of the best days of the year here. Maybe we'll get another one soon.
We'll probably next year. James, thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow, and we